When one thinks of the German colonial empire, one often thinks of the colonies in Africa or even in the Pacific. But what is often overlooked is that Germany also had a colony in Asia, more precisely in China. The name of the colony was Kiautschou. It was located on the east coast of China and the capital was Tsingtau. The area was 500 square kilometers, which was about the size of Lake Constance. There was German beer, German roads, and the Germans also brought the railroad. But how could Germany establish a colony so far away from home and in such a foreign country as China? And why did the colony later perish? In the course of the 19th century, a race began among the great European powers for all the unoccupied white spots on Earth. The German Empire, which was not founded until 1871, was initially averse to the idea of colonialism, but from the 1880s feared economic and political disadvantages as a result of its restraint. Which is why colonial associations were founded in more and more areas where Germans established bases were placed under state protection. The call for the so-called place in the sun became louder and louder. The most famous areas were probably German Southwest Africa, today's Namibia, and German East Africa, which included the present-day states of Tanzania, Burundi, and Rwanda. But the Germans stretched their fingers much further, as far as Asia, since China in particular was considered the most important non-European trading area. A Prussian squadron explored the Chinese Bay of Kiautschou as early as 1860 and concluded a first trade agreement with China, which turned out very unevenly in Prussia's favor. It must be said that China was extremely weakened at that time. Especially due to the Opium Wars with the British, China's political and economic sovereignty was massively restricted, which is why the country was virtually helpless against the European colonial powers. Thus, Germany saw itself in a good position to establish a colony in China along the lines of Hong Kong and Macau. Thus, in 1897, the East Asian Crusader Division received the order to occupy the Bay of Kiautschou. The occupation did not pose much of a hurdle. China eventually had to surrender the area to the Germans without a fight, and they could now dictate Kiautschou's future. After lengthy negotiations and under threat of further military aggression, the territory was thus ceded to the German Empire for 99 years as the leased territory of Kiautschou. In addition, the Germans were given the right to build railroads and mine coal. Officially and euphemistically speaking, it was only leased, but de facto it can be called a German colony in the period from 1897 to 1914. The area was to be transformed into a so-called model colony, which is why a legal system was created. Construction was strictly based on the European model and an infrastructure was created with water pipes, hospitals, schools, churches, market halls, and even breweries. However, the colony also had great disadvantages, especially for the native population. There was a division of society, many inhabitants were dispossessed and resettled, and any resistance to the colonial rulers was violently fought. Economically, however, the colony developed very well and the capital Tsingtau grew from a small fishing village to a respectable size of 60,000 inhabitants. In addition, the completion of the railroad line connected it to the Trans-Siberian Railway, making it possible to travel from Germany to Kiautschou within 13 days. However, the rule of the Germans did not last long and ended already in 1914 with the outbreak of the First World War. Kiautschou was occupied by the Japanese already in the first year of the war, and with the end of the war Germany lost all its colonies, so Kiautschou fell to Japan, which returned it to China in 1922 under pressure from the USA. But what are the remains of the German occupation? Probably the best known is the Tsingtau beer of the Germania brewery. How could it be otherwise? It is one of the two biggest beer brands in China and is exported to over 100 countries. Surely some of you have already tried it. And also the architecture of many houses in Tsingtau, which is called Tsingtau today and has over 6 million inhabitants, reminds strongly of the German past. For example, the old governor's house, the officers' club, the Protestant Christ Church, and there is also German Street. Very famous there is also the building of the Tsingtau Brewery, in which you can visit a beer museum today.